Get over here.
All right.
Well, good evening, everyone. What am I doing here? Sorry. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 6th Foxborough School Committee meeting. A little bit of a later start this evening. It's 7:30 p.m. Here at the meeting, we have all 5 of our members in administration and one of the guests in the audience. Let's begin with open public comment, as I've been doing for a few weeks now. I'm going to pull this down a little bit, makes it a little clearer. As I've been doing for a few weeks now, I'd like to read off our community inbox submissions since our last committee meeting. Susan and Earl Ferguson from 53 West Street submitted something on the 26th of September. Heather Healy, 6 Pine Acres Road on the 29th of September. Robert Kerrigan, 77 North High Street on the 29th of September as well. Juliet Petrillo, 21 Leonard Street, also on the 29th. Ed Sullum, 12 Pine Acres Road on the 29th. Christina Gordon, 17 Hill Street on the 30th of September. Kevin Riley, 6 Highland Circle on the 1st of October. Maureen and Tom Kraus, 9 Baker Street on the 4th of October. And Phil Moore, 4 Spruce Street on the 5th of October. As has been the case for about the past month or so, all of these community inbox submissions have been sent to every one of our school community members. So everyone has had these available to them. I don't see anyone in the audience at this time, so we'll move on to the second item, is the approval of minutes.
I did not have any comments or changes on the minutes.
See?
Me either. Would anyone like to move acceptance of the September 22nd minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of September 22nd, 2020.
A second?
A second.
Yeah, there we go. Michelle second. So Tina motioned and seconded by Michelle. Any further discussion? All in favor of accepting the September 22nd minutes, please raise your hand. 5-0, unanimous vote. Thank you. That was quick. Next on the agenda, we are ahead already. Let's remember those moments when they happen. Next on the agenda is our teaching and learning highlight. Dr. Burdos, please.
It is my pleasure to introduce to you this evening our teaching and learning highlight, which is Ms. Karen McKinnon. Karen, if I can have you come right up here to the guest table to give you a little bit of background. So as you are aware, Sue Shea, who had been with us for more than 20 years, retired at the end of this past school year as the K-8 curriculum director for ELA Social Studies and the Title I director. And so at that time, we needed to fill that very important role. And that search was led by Dr. Mello back in the spring, which was very challenging during the times that we were living and during that period of time. But we were so excited to have Karen end up being the selected candidate to be the K-8 curriculum director. She comes, you have a copy of her resume in your packet. She has an extensive literacy background that you can see there, from not only just working in schools as an elementary classroom teacher herself, but also in the publishing world. And so she really brings a lot to our district. And we know that we're a destination of choice. And so when we have our candidates come forward, we get really excited with who comes forward. And in this case, we couldn't be more excited to have Karen join our team in Foxborough. So Karen, why don't we start and have you just tell a little bit about yourself, your background, and why you were interested in coming to Foxborough.
Sure. Should I?
I should also mention, too, that we have, because she's K-8 curriculum director, we have our 3 elementary principals, Michelle McCarthy, Mike Stanton, and Kate Campbell, and then our middle school principal, Karen Frazier, that are here in support of Karen as well. So hello to our principals, and thank you for joining us through Zoom.
Well, thank you. Very happy to be your highlight of the night, so that's exciting for me. So yes, I have a 26-year-long career in education that I'm very proud of. I always knew I wanted to be an educator from a very, very young age, so that was the the path that I had always been on, but you can see from my resume, I graduated from Boston College with a degree in education, and that was supposed to be the year of the teacher. Everyone was supposed to get a job when we all graduated from college, and needless to say, we all graduated, and my roommates and I were all jobless, and so I moved home, and I started out in a preschool, which was great. It was very fulfilling, gave me some great experience, and then I decided to further pursue my degree, and that's where I ended up at Lesley University, and started out as a kindergarten teacher, and that was kind of what I had envisioned myself as really wanting to do. So that was wonderful. Spent some time in kindergarten, first, second grade, and then I decided to have a family. And I felt like as a teacher, I really couldn't do the justice to the job that I wanted to do and also be the kind of mom that I wanted to be. And so that led me into the publishing world. It allowed me to be a per diem consultant, and so I could pick and choose what I wanted to do, stay home with my kids when I needed to, yet also stay current in the field of education, in particular literacy, which is the area where I really feel most passionate about. So it gave me training, gave me lots of exposure, allowed me to fly around the country, getting into lots of classrooms. At that point, then K-8 classrooms, doing model lessons, a lot of times tied to different programs, but then also not. So I did that for 10 to 12, 15 years, which was wonderful. But then I felt the disconnect between not being in one place all the time. I was in sometimes school systems for 3 days a year. Sometimes I'd have contracts, luckily, for 6 or 8 days a year. But still, you don't get that connection to people, to kids. And I felt that I was ready to kind of settle into a school system. So that's when I returned back into public education, and that was great. I ended up in Norton for 1 year, and then into Rockland, where I stayed for 9 years. My time in Rockland was nice, but I was looking for a change. It became, it became a time for me to further my career a little bit, and I was looking for a place where I could really collaborate, where there was a sense of teamwork that I didn't have in Rockland. I felt like an island. I felt like the work that I wanted to do, it was hard to move forward when you're one person alone. You really need a team. I was really looking for collaboration. Foxborough has a fantastic reputation. I knew Dr. Bertos. I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Mello at a conference that we attended yearly, the Title I conference, as well as Sue. So I had a little bit of exposure and spent some time with them, and the reputation, like I said. So when the job came available, I thought, let me think about that. It's a bit of a commute for me. I live on the South Shore. My baby graduated from high school and went off to college, and so the timing was really right that I could tackle a little bit more of a commute and kind of branch out geographically. So everything seemed to fall into place, and that's what kind of brought me here. Very happy.
Any questions from the members?
Dr. Burrows, can I just say one thing? We had so many searches this spring that it was a blur. It was actually Michelle McCarthy who ran the search for Karen McKinnon, so thank you,
that's
Michelle. Because I'm thinking, I'm hearing
My
some
apologies,
of this for the
Michelle.
first time. So thank you, Michelle. That was great for me to hear some of the pieces that you probably talked about in those interviews, so just wanted to clarify.
The spring was a blur.
Yes.
It's not really a question, but I wanted to welcome you aboard, and I do, we are very proud of our administrative team and how our people work collaboratively. So if you're looking for collaboration, you have come to the right place, and we're excited to have you on the team.
Thank you.
Brad?
I imagine you discussed this in your very thorough interview process, but I'm curious kind of what's on your to-do list in terms of your own learning and projects that you want to look forward to in the upcoming years, other than obvious survival of this year.
It's an interesting year to start a new job, that's for sure.
It certainly is.
So with this new social studies adoption, so that's high on my list this year is getting through the year, so I shouldn't say this year. I mean, for me, this year really is about relationships with teachers and kind of getting to know everyone and really supporting the teachers and getting through a year that presents a lot of challenges. The hybrid model is certainly, we're so thrilled that kids are back in the classroom. but trying to help the teachers navigate that planning and preparation, adjusting and modifying their existing curriculum to fit that hybrid learning model. That's really my focus. But like kind of long-term goals is really with the adoption of the new social studies curriculum and the new standards. So that's a big focus, kind of K to 8. We're still in the process of K to 2, ironing out those maps. We teachers worked on building new curriculum maps, K to 8. This summer, so that's a big kind of area of focus. And then also kind of readjusting and realigning the, elementary ELA and middle school curriculum maps. They've done some work with those in the last couple of years at the middle school, but kind of updating, realigning, and looking at those. And then we'll be also looking at a review in the next couple of years for ELA. So wrapping my head around the existing curriculum and then seeing how I can, modify and drive that forward as we continue to, be excellent in both those areas.
Nice.
That's good.
I just want to echo what Tina said. I welcome to Foxborough. I think that in our schools, we're very proud of them, but I think the people in our schools are probably the greatest asset. So thrilled to have you on board and be a part of that team.
Thank you.
I was just gonna, you kind of answered my question already by answering Brent's, was for those people who may be listening at home, it would probably be helpful for them to understand what your role exactly is. And I feel like you've probably answered that question for mostly, but if there's anything else you can add, I think that would be helpful for parents who may be at home.
Sure. Well, I guess I really see my role as a support role for teachers in supporting them to help instruct the kids. So it's about alignment horizontally and vertically, meeting the standards, helping them, teach the kids to the best of their ability. So that's kind of like big global picture, and then, smaller like nitty gritty. I'm in classrooms, helping them administer assessments. I was in a classroom today helping with Freckle. Then I'm leading grade level meetings, content meetings, helping them look at curriculum maps and, plan lessons. I was in a high school English class today as a teacher, was working on memoir writing. So it's varied, but I guess I see myself as trying to help the teachers deliver the best instruction that they can in ELA and social studies.
Okay, thank you, that's very helpful.
Well, I want to echo what Tina said. Welcome to the district. I appreciated your thoughts about wanting to be part of a team, because I think that is something I'm personally very proud of. Probably all of us are very proud of the focus that our team maintains and that effort to keep that team cohesiveness. So I'm glad you mentioned that and sensitive to that too. I got my first job in teaching in 1989, so I remember I didn't have my job until 2 weeks before the school year. So we were all clamoring around, do we got one, right? So I remember that moment as well too. And then the final thing I appreciate in your resume said is just your exposure. You made a nice point about working with the publishing company and getting around the country and state. Sometimes as an educator, when you get a job and you buckle down, you're in that district for a long time, and you spend most of your time going back and forth to where you're working. And then what you're bringing to us is some expertise and exposure as well, seeing many different designs, many different school systems and stuff. So I appreciate you bringing that to our district as well too. It's always great to have those ideas and those thoughts and that vision that you bring. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't know if the principals had anything that they wanted to add, particularly where Michelle ran the search and not Dr. Mello.
Welcome to Karen already. The other part of her job is being with us, so we're so happy to have her.
We're very glad you're here, Karen. It's going to be a great ride and what we're going to be able to accomplish.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all jumping aboard too and supporting her appointment as well. So thank you so much.
I'll just say one more thing. We had a long-standing school committee member who always said, "Thank you for choosing Foxborough." So I will say it for Bevy. Thank you for choosing
Oh,
Foxborough.
good point. Nice job.
Well, thank you for choosing me.
Thank you and welcome.
Thanks for coming.
Well, next, thanks for getting here early, Joe. Next, we have our fall athletics update. Joe Cusack has arrived, and looking for a little bit of an update, and thanks for spending time with us again tonight.
Yeah, sure. My pleasure. Hi, everybody. So we started, I was going to give you an update of everything we've done sort of the last basically 3 weeks. We're in week 3 now of the season. That includes all the preseason training. We started on Friday, September 18th with soccer, boys and girls, field hockey, golf, and cross country. With all the other sports that were supposed to be in the fall, moved to the fall too. Even with that, we still have just under 200 kids currently participating in a fall sport. And we're also offering freshman, JV, and varsity teams for both soccer programs and field hockey. Coach Bordieri is pretty sure it's the first time we've ever had freshman field hockey, at least since she's been here. So this is the way they changed the rules. We decided to go with smaller rosters to let the kids play, give them a chance. So they're going to 7v7. It's a lot easier to have a chance to play. So we switched that. Really added a couple of these at the last second, but it's worked out really well. For practices, we've been following a lot of the protocols that I brought here last time as a plan. Team practices are staggered by 15 minutes to give one team time to get off the turf before the next group comes in. So there's no, crowding and overlap at the facility. We use the football practice field next to the tennis courts as a staging area for both practices and games. Freshman and JV practices are all being held at 2:30 at various sites on the high school property, if you include Booth as part of that. So the only teams that practice after 4 o'clock are 2 of the varsity teams, whether it be field hockey or the 2 soccer programs. They're the only ones that run after that. At each location, players and coaches sign in with a QR code that's posted at each practice location. We have one at Sam Burns Field. We have one at Hersey, Booth, the baseball field where the freshman field hockey team is. And we have one set up today at Payson for the cross-country meet we held today down there. The benches, as appropriate, if they're at the fields, are marked to keep the kids' belongings separated and really give them somewhere to sit. Kids typically like to stand at sporting events. I get that. And then, they're magnetic and they drift together, and we stretch them apart again, they drift together. But, if needed, the benches are marked for them to put at least their belongings. And some teams use the fence posts along the track as a marker to put the backpacks. They don't even use the benches at all. So that's another approach they're taking to do it. I know the gym class is doing that too. So I don't know if they stole that from them or just borrowed the idea, if they just decided to do it. To help enforce all this stuff, either myself or someone else in the athletics department, either Amy Leonard, our athletic trainer, or Mike Ferraro, who's in our facilities group, is at Sam Burns Field every day to help keep track of the turf, the track, make sure there's nobody there. Nobody's allowed to be, because of the rules, nobody's allowed to be at practice. Everybody I've spoken to who was there to walk the track or go for a run or whatever that we asked to leave because it couldn't be there has been nothing but fantastic, accommodating. Everybody's been great. So, thanks to everybody that I've stopped from doing what they want to do on a nice day. Masks are, the expectation is masks are always on. And I can say that everyone is doing their best with keeping the masks on and trying to be distanced when they're not actively playing the sport. It's a struggle. I can't imagine trying to run around and play soccer in one of these things, but they're doing it. So that's been it's been tough, but the kids they're trying. That's all we can do is ask. We're all doing the best, and they really are giving it their best effort. For games, some of the things are unique to games. For our away games, teams aren't sharing buses anymore. We used to have the luxury of, taking 50 soccer kids on two buses, or 60 kids on 2 buses to an away games, and then dropped at different fields. Now, transportation's working with me to set up, 1 bus per team. So, if we three teams going somewhere, we have 3 buses going somewhere. As one specific for varsity, JV, and freshmen. They go to the game, kids play, they come straight home. There's no chance of, basically all the league agreed that we're not going to have anybody hanging around watching games. So, it's tough for them. They can't watch the other levels play necessarily, but at the same time, it's the best thing for us. For the home games, I think I talked about this last time. We got cards made up that are on lanyards that give every player the player's family access to the games, the home games only. Each card allows for 2 people per student athlete to attend. This keeps us under the 50-person limit, which was in place until last week with the MIA and the state. And the league discussed this, and we're going to leave it in place. We literally just started games yesterday. We didn't really feel it was appropriate to blindly double our attendance limit without at least trying it first. We're definitely up for reevaluating it, figuring out if we want to have a different number of people there. But we just wanted to get it started first and make sure it would work. So again, not ideal, but I think everybody's handled it the right way. People understand that it's in the spirit of kids playing, not in the spirit of keeping people from watching them play. So that's great. And I know Foxborough Cable did our game last night. And I believe I'll speak for them, I think we're streaming every game live, at least that's in Sam Burns Field. So we'll have that available. And I'm finding out from a lot of other towns that are trying to do the same thing. I don't know how successful it'll be, but it's an option for our families to be able to watch the away games. We've hired event staff for the Sam Burns games, which are easier to manage because it's well gated. They manage the gate, people trying to get in from other towns, which we're not allowing. Spectators distancing in the bleachers, responsibilities of managing the game on the fields with sanitizing equipment and benches, and also managing people that are not in the facility, so they're not in the athlete areas. Like I said, we're staging the kids on that football practice field, so we can't have people, lining the fence where the kids are going in and out. So now we have people working that too to keep them out of there. All spectators that come to the games into the facilities, no matter which field it is, register with a QR code, same one the teams use to help with contact tracing. I looked as of this morning, we've got nearly 2,000 check-ins at all the various locations. So it's being well used, and honestly, it saves me and the coaches a lot of time of having to go take attendance at practices, and so the kids are really doing us a favor by doing that. So I appreciate that from them. I tell them that all the time. They're saving us a lot of work. I already mentioned the away fans. We're trying to limit the contact between spectator groups. I guess I'll just urge anybody, please don't go to away games. We're trying not to put one more thing on the other schools to deal with. Same coming back to us. It's a reciprocal feeling. We're just trying to control what's going on. Nobody's obligated to let you into their facility. We are not letting people into our facilities that don't have a game pass. So that's just how we're doing it here. And I guess the last thing is we had to get really creative with our athletic trainer. So Amy Leonard has moved out of the building into the concession area of the track, moved a couple of training tables out there. So she's literally always at practice. She's not even in the building if something happens. So she made her own QR code for kids to check in when they come see her. So when they walk into her building, into her office, they can just check in. That way she knows who was there. The league is discouraging, I always get the word wrong, is it preventative, I believe, treatments before games. Kid shows up from another town and wants their ankle taped or their finger taped or whatever it is. The league athletic trainers agreed that we're not going to do that, but there are exceptions. Some schools don't even have an athletic trainer right now, so Amy's being accommodating for that, which is great. We had a kid last night at a game wanted to get his ankle taped, and she was able to do that. So obviously she's not in the building, which is closed after school for all the cleaning protocols that have to go on. So we moved not only Amy outside to the concession stand, the locker rooms are closed, so the kids are adapting. We do have the bathrooms open outside by the turf, so if somebody does need to change, they do have somewhere to go after school. They're single bathrooms, so it's very easy, one in, one out. And then the weight room is closed for all in-season and out-of-season athletes. So basically everything that's going on is outside and monitored and masked. And it's been almost 3 weeks. We started games yesterday. We've had 2 senior nights already, and kind of moving along. I suggested they play the senior nights as soon as they could. I didn't know it'd be day 1, day 2, and day 4, but we'll take it. It's better than not having one late in the year. So so far so good. So I can answer anything you probably have a question on.
Thank you.
I just want to add to that before. The other thing is we have worked very hard with most of the department heads to maintain the buildings being closed. We obviously had issues even as going to our teachers who preferred to stay later at night. But obviously for us to do the cleaning that we need to do and really know where people are, the only way we said from day one was that we would close the buildings down. So while I know that's frustrating different organizations from having access to different parts of the buildings, our goal really is to keep kids in school. And, that's our critical mission here. So, I know music would love to have their night sessions. I know the football would love to have the weight room. I know, some of the clubs would like to run after school. I know there's a list of people that would really benefit from all those things. But the reality is, as long as we can do stuff outside now, we should be doing stuff outside. So if anybody, in any of those groups, there's always an opportunity to do something outside, whether it's conditioning, strength training, whatever. You don't have to be in the building, but I think it is critical that we maintain the protocols we put in place to keep the building safe and to keep the kids safe and teachers as well. So, just wanted to add that as a piece of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions from committee members or thoughts?
I guess I just would like to piggyback on what Mr. Yukna just said and just make something clear. So if you're an off-season sport, like football or cheer or volleyball, and you wanted to do outdoor strength training and conditioning, that option's on the table. They could do that as long as it's non-sport specific strength training and conditioning.
Yeah, that's always been, it's a great question. It's always been allowed by the MIA. It has to be voluntary for the kids that attend. It has to be open to anyone in the student body. It has to be non-sport specific, which you said, so you can't, if, volleyball can't practice volleyball and baseball can't practice baseball, but they can do fitness things. And our facilities are being used right after school, and they're used very extensively. We have teams sharing fields right now, trying to use it. So I'd recommend not having it at the high school. I don't even know if, I'm not sure that I'd even be allowed to reserve a spot because it is a voluntary non-sport related activity. So I think, it's always been available and it's something that can be done absolutely, especially an outdoor facility. Yeah.
I just want to be clear that we're not prohibiting, team building or guidance of teams getting, doing some sort of, team building experience outside, out of doors. It's the indoor facilities that are not available, and they're not available to any of our students or actually any of our other groups, the booster clubs or any of the other organizations that use our school after hours. We're just not open, including us. We're here.
Right, we're here. We're not at the school for that reason because all of the facilities are after school are closed.
And this isn't punitive in any way. This is to ensure that our students will be back in the buildings, hopefully 5 days a week, if we can get this right now. And that we're doing everything possible to have our winter, our fall 2 season, our spring season, and this is all part and parcel of this.
Yeah, and as I
taking these safety precautions now.
Yep, I agree. And as I understand it, it's not, I can't say that no one has anything open, but I know there are schools that have, we're very fortunate with the size of our gym, for example, that it's still usable to some extent, the gym for gym class. But I do know there are schools that have, they've overflowed into a lot of these facilities, whether it's locker rooms where we have a lot of things stored or weight rooms or gyms or wherever where they have an overflow classroom or, the cafeteria is overflowing into there. So it's not unique to us at all.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And just to be clear, our parents, we're still at that 50-person limit for our home games, and we're asking our parents not to go to other towns in the Hawk.
Yeah, so the league, we basically reached an agreement 3 or 4 weeks ago that the limit was going to be, obviously at the time, so I'm speaking at the time, the attendance limit was 50 per outdoor event. And we just agreed that we were going to admit no road fans, and then however any hometown wanted to do it, they could do it. So if somebody decided they only wanted to let in senior parents or, whatever the metric is. So I can't speak to what every single other town is doing, but we're sticking to 50. And like I said, it's, the state did switch to 100. I thought it was an inconvenient timing where sports were all just about to start, and so suddenly it went to 100, and we didn't really want to take that chance week one, but we're we meet at least once a week and we're in constant conversation with people. So we're absolutely willing to adjust, but for now, we just feel like we need to make sure we can do what we were planning to do before we try to do something else. So that's why we're holding on to that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just I commend you for how thorough all of this is. And so not only the planning, but the execution seems to have been very well done. So thank you for that. I know it's been difficult with a lot of shift, but it is really remarkable how it's been executed. So thank you.
No, thank you.
Michelle?
Yeah, I was going to mirror what Rob was saying. I've been at both opening nights, if you want to put it that, senior nights, and they've run great. So that's wonderful because I know the kids are really enjoying it. There's definitely odd aspects about it. Everybody has to adjust. One of the questions I had, though, was as it gets colder, when, what are the preparations on dealing with kids having places to put things and so forth as it gets colder, with the fact of, I'm just even looking at practices going into how cold it's getting now. I'm thinking mid-November is going to be pretty cold. So are there thoughts, are heaters going to be brought in on some places or anything along those lines?
I don't know if I can speak to that, honestly. I will say that the season itself, as structured right now, will end, I think, 3 days later than it typically does. Usually the cutoff is right around Halloween. I'm trying to remember the date off the top of my head, but I think our last game is like November 4th. I might have that wrong. There's also, we've discussed, and we may or may not do it, have some kind of, extra games at the end if it's all going well, but we're not scheduling that now because we don't know what it's going to look like, next week, never mind 5 weeks from now. But yeah, we'll get cold. I'm not going to deny that every fall it gets cold, but I know we've talked about places in the high school to put other things. We do have a girl walked past me today carrying a field hockey stick between classes, and that's almost become the norm. It hasn't been too hard because with the desks all moved out of the classrooms, there's actually a lot more space at each desk. So while strange, it's not as weird to bring 2 big bags and put them with you at your desk. It's not an ideal solution, but I don't think anything is right now. But as long as that stays the same, I think it's appropriate that the kids can expect to put their, have their things with them all day. If it's not, completely unbearable, but they've been good so far. Like I said, I've seen kids with field hockey sticks and equipment in the hallway, and they bring it around like that's what they do now. So, I know if anything else happens where we need to evaluate some kind of indoor setup, we've talked about that a little bit, but we didn't feel like we had to go to that just yet.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm trying to address is right now they'll come to school in shorts, but at some point they're not going to be doing that. Mm-hmm. And so having the changing is definitely something I would foresee is going to become more of an issue over time, being able to prepare for that.
Yeah, and practice is worse than games. I would say that, the kids today, field hockey showed up in their uniforms. So they were ready to play from 7:30 this morning. So it varies by team, but yeah, we're still working on finalizing all that. It's not, hasn't been decided, but we're definitely not doing it. We have to figure that out.
Right, absolutely. Thank you.
Brett?
Just a comment and then a thank you. The comment is after what you said, Michelle, your very good comment about the cold. Perhaps our athletes and coaches can take tips from my brethren in Minnesota and Wisconsin, where every year I played in snow, period. Mm-hmm. And we ended at the same time. And, people wore their warm-ups to school and they had their shorts and everything on underneath. You kind of adjust to it. And they've been adjusting beautifully, and I can't imagine our students changing that moving forward. And the thank you is more on the youth sports side of things. I know it's completely different organizations run by completely different people. I know you have a history in Foxborough soccer as well, but I'll just say that the knowing that the high school kids are out there doing it and they're doing it safely is actually buttresses and inspires, from my view, also as a coach and a parent, the performance of the younger kids too, because they're doing it too, and they're out there wearing their masks and they're adjusting beautifully, just as they do in school. So, thanks.
Great.
I believe it's worth the effort.
Well, Joe, I want to thank you for all the protocols you're putting in place. I think you said it well. This is not normal for any one of us, so these are the best protocols we can put in for the safety of everyone. And certainly, I think we need to thank the athletes for working extra hard in something that may be uncomfortable and unknown to them. Our goal is to stay in school with our students in a hybrid model, and this is part of that puzzle. I think our goal is also to stay in sports as well. I'm very confident to know that the Executive Office of Environmental and Energy Affairs that wrote the youth sports, the EEA department that wrote the youth sports, is monitoring and watching sports as it is taking place right this minute. So I think every athlete that works, whether they're in Foxborough or any town across the Commonwealth, should pay careful attention to these protocols to give support in going forward for the next seasons, whatever season that may be, and for all the sports that are to come. So I know for a fact that the efforts are not only good for Foxborough, but they're good for the future of sport. And so I think we're all kind of in it together to keep our eye on the ball. Sorry, no pun intended, excuse me. So to keep our eye on the ball. And I think it's critically important. I hope everyone hears that. I really do, because we have ways to go. And I know what athletic directors across the Commonwealth are doing, just like yourself and the Hockomock League, is advocating for kids to participate in sports, in all sports, whether that means the current sports we're doing or the winter sports that are coming up, which have challenges, or the fall float season, which also has sports that have challenges as well. But I can assure you that my exposure is that everyone's advocating very strongly. I know I am every day with whoever I speak to. So thanks to everyone here in Foxborough that's paying attention. These are not small things we're trying to do. These are the real things and what's happening for all of us across the Commonwealth. So thank you.
Yeah, just around with, like I said, not only to the people that I've spoken to at the track and asked them to, you can't be at the facility, we're using it, and they completely understand. And 90% of the time they apologize to me for some reason. I don't know why, but they're great. And even the parents, just in we had a scrimmage last week, but even just the game we had last night, we had a couple soccer games yesterday, cross country today. Like everybody just, I'm so glad that everybody seems to get it and they understand, and it's making everybody's life easier. It makes the kids' life easier, it makes the coach's life easier, it makes my life easier, and it makes theirs easier to be with each other. So, I think it's great just from a community standpoint how understanding, whether they like it or not, that everybody has been. I think it's just fantastic. So I really appreciate that approach.
Thank you very much.
I just also wanted to add, it really was fantastic yesterday being at the soccer game and being able to share the link to family members that are all across the country so that they could watch the kids as well playing the game. Especially in these times, being able to connect that way was just fantastic. And so I have to commend Foxborough Cable Access for being willing to do that and making it happen live stream, as well as being able to download it. And from the student athletes' perspective, many of them that are juniors and seniors, they're missing out on being able to tape what they're playing, and to have that as an opportunity has really kind of calmed some of their nerves in that way. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I think like I said, Foxborough Cable deserves tons of credit for that. It's
right.
My son was texting me during the game last night. He's at college watching the game on his computer because he wanted to see what was going on. And I also found out today that somebody's kid went home and watched the game last night after they played the game. So it really was it's a great resource that the kids and families are leaning on, and we really want to get that to everybody that's coming to our town and get other people's access when we go to theirs as well. So. It is great. So Foxborough Cable's been great about it.
The more we can do to help build those connections of what we have available right now, the better off things are going to be. And I know it's frustrating because not everybody gets to be and doing the same things and having that opportunity. But the more that we can kind of take advantage of what's out there and learn from it, and hopefully as time goes on, we'll be able to build on top of what we're learning. And that's really important, and I commend you for helping making those kind of connections all work. So thank you.
Thank you.
How did cross-country do today? And field hockey?
I haven't heard from the field hockey coach yet, so I don't know. Cross country, Sharon won both meets today in cross country, but
They'll get them next time.
it was good to be out there. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just at this point, it's just great to be
That's
out there
right.
and see everybody. So
That's right. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you,
All right.
Joe.
Thanks, Joe. Good work.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for your thoughts and your comments as well. It's such an important piece of what our students do, isn't it, though? Right? And how valuable it is to them, but it's all part of the big puzzle. So thank you. Thank you. Next on the agenda, again, ahead on the clock, so I'm just taking notes of those few meetings when we're always like in the game here, is our superintendent's goals. And Dr. Bernos, would you like to lead off for that, please?
Sure. So this is the time of year when I share my draft goals with you. It's also the time of year when all of our educators are in the middle of crafting their goals. And with educator evaluation, that is something that is a collaborative process. It's something that's very cohesive across the district. So my goals focus in on what our district goals are, your school committee goals, as well as really in tandem with our with our administrators and then with our teachers. So one of the things that last year I participated in the pilot program with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education when they released an updated superintendent rubric, and at the same time they further released a second draft of an indicator rubric. And that was really streamlining that very large rubric and narrowing it down to where you could focus on where your highest priority areas are, your priority practices. And that was something that I think helped. It's for the purpose of school committee and in evaluating me. And so you really can see what your responsibility is, and then at the same time look at, well, where are you looking to collect evidence or my goals at the same time? And so that was focusing on 6 to 7 of the indicators under the 4 standards. And I personally found that to work out very well last year. It narrowed our focus, it focused in on our strategic objectives, and really lent itself well to what we were doing as far as district improvement and the strategy. Interestingly, I see that now has morphed over. So in this particular year of COVID, the Department of Education has now taken that and they have narrowed that to teachers and administrators. And they have said, we need to look at this very unique year and all that it brings with it, from in-person to hybrid models to remote learning, and understand that it's a very unique year. It's unprecedented, as we continue to say, and it's really requiring us to adapt our practice and innovate in ways that we've never done before. So those 6 indicators, focus indicators that the Department of Education has done for the 2021 school year, they've aligned that between administrators and teachers to say, what are the most critical areas that we should focus on in this unique time? So we've taken that as an administrative team, looked at those indicators, and those fall under Standard 1. I'm going to go through and give some specifics up here, but just kind of broad brush here. Under Standard 1, where they align, it's curriculum and instruction. Clearly, we know that we need to be looking at our students and making up for time of what we've had as far as not being in school since March and now being in a hybrid model. So the curriculum and instruction piece, you heard Karen McKinnon talk about all of the work already that's being done there and looking at that. So that's under Standard 1. Under Standard 2, the focus area is environment. We know how important our environment from our students when we think about not just the teaching and learning, but from the most priority, which is our safety. And having safety is our number 1 priority. And Standard 3, looking at communication. We know how important communication is, from with our parents, with our staff, with our students, and in multiple forms of communication. And then under Standard 4, professional culture. And that's the environment, the culture piece, but at the same time, when we think about equity, inclusivity. So those standards, as an administrative team, we went through those, we looked at the rubrics and felt that they really did make sense for what we're doing in Foxborough to align with the district strategy for improvement, as well as what we see is really important for us where we are at this point in time. And then the teachers as well, taking that, they're going to be with that alignment and focusing on those indicators. So my goals this evening are you are going to see that I'm taking those 6 indicators in one additional one that comes under fiscal management because of where we are with the Borough Project, as well as where we are when we think about COVID expenses too. So I just wanted to kind of give that big picture piece, that it's the cohesive piece that's so important, and the collaboration when we think about our shared vision between from our level, from a central office to our principals and then to our teachers. At the same time, in big picture, there's 5 guiding principles that are guiding all of this work. And the number 1, we're prioritizing the social emotional learning for our students. We're looking at the access to grade level instruction and really the essential content for students in curriculum and instruction, striving for that coherence that we have. So when we look at systemic change in our efforts, engaging our students and families, and then promoting a culturally responsive, anti-racist teaching and learning practices that really aim at disrupting inequities. So that's the big picture. So this is really small. You have this in your packet. These are my 5 goals. Every educator has to have a professional practice goal and a student learning goal. And then if you're a principal, you have school improvement goals. And if you're at the district level, we have district improvement goals. The first goal, which is professional practice, continue to develop skills and actively participate in the final year of the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents new superintendent's induction program. So that's a 3-year commitment that you've supported me in. It's been a wonderful program to be part of. I've learned a lot. It's really about reflective practice as a leader and systemic change. And as you know, the entry plan and all the work that's gone into that for the strategy for improvement. So it is quite the commitment, but it's definitely worth all the time and effort, because you're continually learning and reflecting on your own practice, how I can best support and distributive leadership model with our own administrators, and then using relevant student data and really current research and best practice for improvement for the overall district effectiveness. At the same time, we have 2 new critical, in addition to the K-8 curriculum director role, which Dr. Mello oversees, but with having a new principal and having a new director of student services they're under. So really providing support to them. We're fortunate that they've come with experience, but at the same time, Foxborough is a different district and we have our own way of doing things. So to be there to support them and how they then support their faculty and staff in each of their buildings. So one of the things that I think that's really important here is, we think about how can, at our level, my level, cultivate that meaningful dialogue, feedback with our administrators to support that commitment to effective teaching and learning, and then particularly in this unique context that we have of COVID and all that brings with it. You'll see that on this particular goal, I have connected it to the district strategy under Objective 2, which is, I'll just go to, that is something that you are familiar with from a year ago, approving that. But that blueprint really goes to the academic excellence, the rigor, the relevance, and the responsiveness. And it also connects to these focus indicators that I was mentioning under the first standard of curriculum instruction, and then the second one of human resource management and development. So when we think about all of the observations and feedback, when I do walkthroughs with principals and buildings and their evaluation of teachers, that's all work that we do together to be able to provide feedback through observations and going back to our expectations and continuing that academic excellence as we move forward. It is hard to believe even though I'm finishing up my 3rd year as of December, and it's being in the third year of the new superintendent induction program. So it shifts a little bit to where it's much more on problems of practice and research, and that's all now virtual based on current circumstances, and we'll see if we can get back in person after the new year, but we'll see what time brings there. The student learning goal is to enhance the capacity of Foxborough Public Schools to address issues of educational equity and inclusivity, including student achievement, access, school connectedness, and disproportionality. So this is something you've heard about for the last couple of years, and we've done a lot of work when we think about professional development, with being culturally responsive, looking at our data, and something to the effect of who are our students that are taking AP courses, who are taking honors courses, really looking at the data there and having more students take those courses. You've heard it about AP potential, but it's more than that. It's really looking at not just, it's looking at gender, it's looking at ethnicity, it's looking at so many different factors to see if we have, if we're proportional with our programs, and then at the same time, looking at access to programs. So this is not something that can be done in a year. It's not something that can be done in 2 years. If you think back to 2 years ago, the committee that was formed to really look at culture and curriculum with the bias and discrimination, preventing and minimizing bias and discrimination, we switched that last year to really being more on equity, inclusivity, and taking that as being a steering committee that we can come back to. So shifting the name, continuing that focus to where it's a standing committee. And that will be work that we will continue to do. So really continuing to develop the capacity of our staff to recognize bias and analyze data, but to be able to inform our instruction and our curriculum at the same time. And that one, as you can see, connects back to the district strategy and then the focus indicator of cultural proficiency. The third goal is a goal that's continued from last year, and this one I wanted to spend a little bit of time about. So we had our strategic plan, which was a 3-year plan, our technology plan, which was a 3-year plan that was sunsetting, and then we were going into our planning for success. That, we were so close, so close. As the end of March or the middle of March came, we have a 27-member team. We obviously couldn't bring them together. We tried to do that virtually. It's too large of a team, and the work, it didn't work to be able to do that virtually. So Dr. Ruth Gilbert Whitner, who was facilitating that work along with me, we've had a number of planning sessions to say, how can we take that district strategy, look at the planning for success, be able to bring that together and to do it really well? Because that's one thing that we're not going to do things quick just to get things done. We want to be able to use it to really drive our vision and what we do moving forward. So with thinking about our current state and thinking about bringing people together, we talked early on to have a plan in place for January. That is still the plan. But what I am suggesting here is that we end up having a 3.5-year plan. So we have that plan, we have an action plan that goes into place that really starts July 1. So we'll see that pushed out a little bit, but expect to come forward with a plan to you still in January, but that's continued from last year. The fourth goal under district improvement, this one, when I first wrote this goal, I didn't feel that it really did justice to the environment that we're in today, and I don't know if it still does that or not. It is to provide leadership, guidance, and support to administrators, faculty, and staff during this unprecedented global health crisis, including proactively preparing for the unexpected events, potential unknowns, and all things related to COVID's impact on school learning models. That could be a goal all by itself. So when we think about you have 5 goals in front of you, that really, it's day to day. We're solving problems that come up each day that we never could have anticipated. And even from a curriculum and planning standpoint, when we think about what teachers are doing and supporting them, we've talked about how it's almost like you're a first-year teacher again. But what we've already realized in week 4, it's so much more than that. It's so much more than just being a first-year teacher, because you're planning for in-person, you're planning for asynchronous work, you're planning for bringing students together, and you're looking at your curriculum very differently. So supporting teachers with that, knowing that at any point in time, things can change, thinking about the sports update that we had, making sure that all of our safety protocols are in place. So from an environment piece, there is a lot that goes into that. I will say that all of the work that we've done with all of our team, it's provided for a smooth opening, and we've talked about that here. But again, we don't know what each day will bring, and we're solving new problems and things that come forward. So under that particular goal, obviously a safe and supportive learning environment is the priority. Reflecting on our practice, what's working, what's not, and shifting when we need to, and at the same time taking feedback from all stakeholders, from our parents, from our teachers, from our students. Thinking about having my student advisory group that Dr. Mello and I work with, having the student voice. But again, finding out along the way what's working, what's not. So communication is really important there as we continue to update families of what's taking place, be able to take that feedback, and then again, the social emotional learning of our students is so important. I'm so glad they're able to be back into music, into sports, into clubs, even if they are virtual and they look very different, as we talked about. We know that it's so important to have that in addition to the academics. The 5th goal is a multi-year goal. We continue with the Borough Project. The preschool is so exciting to walk into, and it's so beautiful. And even, we've talked about the temporary classrooms with the teachers being in there. You wouldn't even know that they were in the current gym. But we have all the school building committee meetings and all that goes along with that. And at the same time, the bumps that come along with not having interactive boards and those kinds of things ready at the same time. So we will continue with that. As far as the project itself, that would be that 7th indicator when I had mentioned, in addition to the 6 indicators with the Department of Ed, which really goes under fiscal systems, and then also implications when it comes to COVID. So this other slide that you had in your packet, let's see if this is not working for me. Mike, are you able to go back to the slide? The clicker's not working. That's the focus indicators. Thank you. So this is just a one-page overview, and there's a lot of arrows there, but the point in this slide for you, and you have it in your packet, is to show the alignment and the connection of each of those goals and where they fall within the indicators under each standard, so you can see the cohesive nature of the goals and the alignment, and that it is strategic for that coherence of how it connects. And again, to remind you that that's going to be the focus, those particular indicators, for not just myself, but principals' goals and teachers' goals under those areas. So again, all of those goals are really based on our current needs of the district. They're based on our strategy for improvement, and they're obviously based on what we're in the middle of the environment of COVID-19. So it's a lot of information. I'm happy to take questions or clarify.
I think the arrows are clear. I understand them. But when I first saw this, I thought this was like a COVID test. Like, we're going this way, we're going that way, we're going over here.
That's kind of what every day is.
Yeah,
then,
that's what, like
right?
every day. I thought it was a perfect. It was like gold, it was the 4th one.
I love the arrows. Fair. I want everything explained that way. No, I appreciate it. And I actually also very much appreciate and I'm thankful for that you listed district improvement goal number 4 as you did, because we have to honor that and state that outright, that our job this year, more so than any other, is going to be unique in how you react and how the policies shift. Just in the work that's been done with you and your team, Dr. Berdos, even between June and getting schools open in mid-September, that's a whole 2 years of administrative work in and of itself. So I'm glad to see that there as a specific goal, because it really just needs attention. We can't pretend it's business as usual.
I agree. It's like year 300 of your superintendent induction, not year 3 with this last one. Each month seems like a year. So, but you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you. I sent out an email to all faculty and staff on Friday just to let them know what an amazing job they're doing navigating really this new territory that we're in. But the comment was, it's been 3 weeks, but you may feel like you've lived 3 months at this point, just because of the amount of work that everyone's putting in.
Yeah. Crazy. Dr. Burtis, the new superintendent induction program, is that mandatory or is that voluntary?
It's voluntary.
Okay. I have to, so 2 years, right? Since I joined the committee. And I don't think it's just that program. I think it's also you. But I can tell you, I am really impressed and would hope you endorse that program with how your messaging has changed in the way that you're presenting these goals. I think that's the influence of that program and your mentor in that, and then your peers in that program. It just, the language and everything just seems to be a lot more. Whatever word I put in there is not going to sound right in any other way. It's a lot more evolved in its presentation. So I appreciate that and your participation in that program.
I've definitely learned a lot from the other superintendents. I've mentioned before, we were the largest group with nearly 50 of us as new superintendents in that group. They've ended up having more around 20, 25 in the other years. And having those opportunities for a full day once a month, it's a commitment, but what you gain from it and learn from colleagues, from the districts that are rural districts to city districts to, there's some commonalities, but there's some things that are very different. It makes you feel very, very proud of where we are and what we've done, and I feel like we've been a leader in a number of areas, but then at the same time, I've been able to learn from others and to say, okay, that's an area that we need to talk about and we could improve on.
This is why we fully supported, you doing the superintendent induction program when you became the superintendent. So, did it work out to be 3.5 years really that you've been in this, or?
It did not. I did not have. So I'll say Debbie Spinelli was my mentor for the first being
half.
that I started
I couldn't remember
in January.
if you started right when you started as superintendent, or if you began.
I had to wait
that
until
June.
July. We started in July,
That makes sense.
and but that was an advantage. I will
Yes.
say everyone was starting July 1.
Yeah,
and I felt
you had
like
already been superintendent.
I had already been since January, so I had an advantage there.
But I couldn't remember the timing. So, but I think it's definitely been beneficial both to the district and to you professionally.
So I just had a comment because it just sort of struck me from what you were saying is, so going into COVID, there's 50 districts that have new superintendents in them in Massachusetts, at least 50, because
you're in year 3.
I'm in year three, and then they've had another 20, 25.
they added it. It wasn't 50 all in 1 year.
Well, we were 50 all.
Right.
I think we were 44 is what it was. And some are no longer superintendents. Some have,
Right.
some just decided it just wasn't for them. I mean, there's various reasons.
Absolutely. But I think that's interesting to really kind of get that concept that there really are so many districts within Massachusetts that have new superintendents that are all having to take on this huge task, and huge just is not the word that encompasses what you've all been doing, but it's really great that you're involved in such a program, because I'm sure that having all of that mentorship and camaraderie and people to talk with has helped through all of this. And so that really is fantastic.
I will say I'm glad I'm not a new superintendent in a new district starting right now. I mean, that's been the beautiful thing. This is my 10th year in Foxborough.
Right.
And we know how important relationships and collaboration and teamwork. So having that to be able to build on that's a huge difference for someone going into a new district and doing all of their entry plan and their findings. It's very different.
Right.
So, my hat's off to them too, but we're able to learn from each other for sure.
Yeah. That's great.
Anything else? Good. So thank you for the goals and the clarity here. The rubric that's been developed for us, it has great specificity, and it does make a very direct kind of through line connection between goals and indicators. So I think it's important for the public to understand that these goals are specific, but they're directly connected to where we need to get to for indicators. But the other thing that dawned to me as I read the packet was there was a page in here that talked about the role of the school committee, and I think we've all read that. But I actually think this is incredibly educational to the community. So if you just don't mind, I just want to reiterate what this says, because this is a great statement about why there is such importance on this evaluation and this public evaluation of our leadership of our school district. I think it's right there, and I just think it's so key. The first statement here is the role of the school committee. The school committee's role is governance rather than management. A school committee thereby focuses on the what and the why, the governance, of superintendent's leadership, rather than the how or the management. The indicator rubric does this same thing. These are connected. The composition of the school committee mentions that the school committee's evaluator is comprised of multiple individuals rather than just a single evaluator. And this demands consensus building, a process made exponentially easier when it's focused like this rubric is put forth to us right now, like you've identified. Mentions the focus of the school committee. The school committee members focus primarily on the outcome of the superintendent's work rather than the details of the implementation. And this indicator does that as well. And then finally, what's important here in the Commonwealth and for us is the public process of evaluating a superintendent. The superintendent's evaluation is the only educator evaluation conducted in public. The indicator rubrics, which we're using, includes the practices to which a committee can reasonably be expected to have access or insight such that the public process of collecting and evaluating evidence may be conducted with transparency and integrity. I just thought those four important points are really valuable. I don't think we all hear it that way, and the community doesn't get to dig into it like that. But I thought that really indicated how the dynamic is put forward. So I'm glad you sent that to me too, because as I'm reading, I'm like, yeah, it's right there, exactly what we need to do. So anyway, I just wanted to add that in for everyone, so thank you.
Yeah, I just think that's a really important, what's reasonably expected, because you're not here every day in the schools. You have what you're seeing as perspective of a parent and as a school committee member, but at the same time, it's got to be something that you can reasonably be able to evaluate based on the evidence.
Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for that presentation as well.
Thank you.
We don't need any votes. No, we don't need any votes on that at all. Of course not. Next on the agenda, still 5 minutes ahead, is COVID-19 financial update with Mr. Yukna.
So while we're early in the year, only being 3 weeks in, really our main budget is a little too early to be looking at any kind of adjustments to that or concerns about that. However, I thought it was a good opportunity to basically give you an update of what it's costing us to basically participate in this COVID activity. Some of these costs go back to the springtime, so you'll see that there's a total that we're going to deal with that's up to about September, and then we're going to have a balance of what we're looking at if it continues as is into January. Obviously, one of the largest cost factors that we had was the decision to equip ourselves with the laptop computers, which cost just under $800,000 by the time we were done with the laptops that we needed to purchase, plus some other technology. We also, at the same time, had to increase some of our software capabilities for collaborative activities and purchase that. Those are all one-time costs, obviously aren't going to be reoccurred no matter how we move forward on this until obviously we get into a replacement cycle. Cleaning and disinfecting of buildings, the protective gear to do that has been a significant cost. And just as an example, at this point, we're running roughly $6,500 a week to clean the buildings just with the materials, not staffing or anything else of that nature, just the disinfectants, the Perel hand sanitizers, the wipes, all of that type of product. We have done very well, thanks to Carl Fuller and Tony Masali, as far as acquiring. We started very early in the process, so we have a very good stockpile of the product. But even at that, we know, we keep continuing to watch that, as well as what we're going to need to buy as we move forward. One of the other major concerns, obviously, to open up the school year is it's a very different model as far as staffing, and staffing across the board. So we had to increase our teaching capacity in some areas to be able to handle the hybrid model and the remote learning, as well as doing the in-class learning at the same time. And in many cases, that was adding to people who were less than a 1 FTE, bringing them up by like a 0.2 to give us that added, needed time to be able to make sure we had all the kids with their time on learning requirements. Past the custodial staff, we made a conscious decision to add an additional nurse, because we had one available to us who was in high demand, and our biggest concern was losing a nurse in any of our facilities during this time would put us at very high risk of being able to appropriately manage. So we made that decision early on, and basically have one added nurse that's floating between the buildings currently, but when one's out sick, we have our replacement to go in. It goes down to even having a couple subs on the middle school and high school level that are basically guaranteed on a daily basis. Now, the reality is we would have used them anyways, but now we at least know that they're locked in for us, and we're not fighting with another district to have them for the process. Custodial manpower. In effect, to maintain the cleaning schedules we now have to do during the day, as well as the deeper cleans at night, we had to add the equivalency of 5 additional custodians. Now, that's being done through a couple different vehicles, because we don't have 5 additional custodians to put at it, but we had substitute custodians that are filling fairly good-sized gaps. We have a lot of our staff that's putting in overtime to help us do this, and which we greatly appreciate, but it's one of the only ways we can get this processed and keep the cleaning levels to the standards that we have set. Bus drivers, critical component of obviously this plan or any other plan we would have. One of the biggest problems in having to develop their schedules was the fact that the elementaries were going to have the AM, PM shifts. As much as that's the best thing we could possibly do for the elementary kids, it created an additional in and out cycle for each one of those drivers during the day, which has totally changed the way their lives are as well, and we get that. We hope, obviously, it's a short-lived thing as far as this year, but by doing that, we effectively have added, if this goes for the full year, we've added about $100,000 worth of cost just in the time it takes to do these additional trips. And we're trying to be creative, looking for other subs that we can try to help take some of that load off of those drivers as well. And I give Dennis and Kathy a very high marks on everything they've done. They've done it at least 5 times every time we've had to do something, so to figure out how it's going to work. Beyond that, we obviously did the HVAC study, so there was money involved with that. The next biggest component, which obviously both Amy and Allison and others have worked on, is the LMS cycle, which is for our remote families. That basically, with the number that decided to go out, we didn't have the staffing to be able to do it ourselves, so we had to use the state program. We're estimating that's around $261,000 for the fall semester, and obviously if it goes beyond January 1st, it's going to be another $261,000 for the second half of the year. So in total, for the first half of the year, the good news is, even though we have spent between basically March and now, close to $1.7 million. It has been all funded through 3 different revenue sources that have been part of this whole COVID response from the government. The first one is the FEMA/CARES Act, which are 2 actually different programs, but they're being married together and paying different portions of it. That really funded the computer purchases and the initial issues around cleaning of buildings and PPE equipment. Then what happened was, obviously during the summer when they were pushing for us to be able to reopen, the second wave of grants came out, and the larger of the 2 was the school reopening grant, which was for $567,900. That has really helped us to fund the remote learning platform, as well as the staffing changes that we needed to do to make the program work. So it was actually a great thought that the way that they designed that grant, and I think we used it appropriately to take care of the added costs that we were going to have to reopen the school in person. And then the ESSER grant that basically came out, which was a smaller grant. Again, we used that for a lot of the one-off type of things, whether it was technology issues, pushing classrooms outside where we had to get tents in both the middle school and the high school to make that work, and just a number of different smaller program things. So everything we did in the first half of the year, the $1.7 million, has been covered, not through our budget, so that's why our budget's been able to stay intact without really, a pushback to the taxpayer side, because of these 3 grant sources. The fear or the problem we have, quite honestly, is that we don't see that this is a resolution by 12/31. We believe we will be in some kind of similar mode that we are in currently, unless there's some major change between now and December 31st. All these grants expire on 12/31. So even if we were able to save some money to carry forward, you can't use it after 12/31. It actually gets reverted back, in most cases, to the state. So that's why we picked all things that we knew we had to incur, not that were speculative in nature. And that way we would incur them, we'd use the grants, and leave our budget intact. The second half of the year, again, if we get there, we're looking at close to $800,000 in cost that we're hoping that there will be some sort of a grant, whether it's the second wave that they're talking about that on the federal side. I think every school district's in the same boat we're in. I've talked to friends of mine that are in Canton and Walpole and stuff like that, and the numbers make ours look actually good as far as what it's cost them to do a similar type of program. So we're all going to be in the exact same boat. Obviously, with no additional funding, it would mean we would have to find in our budget $800,000, which I think you all know is extremely hard, if not nearly impossible. So we're either hoping for a quicker process to us getting back to a more of a normal cycle, or B, hoping that there will be additional resources available to us for the spring semester. And we really don't know where that spring is yet, but we know if we have to continue running exactly as we are today, that's basically the number you'll be facing.
Just for context, the 3 grants, is the CVRF state or fed, and then is the ESSER, is that state or federal?
They're effectively all federal grants that flow through the state, all 3 of them.
Okay, thanks.
So,
looking at the cost of materials, how far out are we supplied?
I would say safely at this point, the critical items like the disinfectants and stuff, we try to keep our purchases out about 6 weeks.
Okay.
And we're comfortable with that, and obviously we're watching what the market is doing as far as what supply and demand is.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. And the only reason, and again, I give Carl a lot of credit for being on this one, but he and I talk on a regular basis about it. And that is, we didn't know how much we would use. So that was kind of the scariest part for opening the schools day one, was what kind of quantity would we go through and how quick, and would it be a problem to replenish? So, when some of these grants came out, we just made the conscious decision that we would really just beef up. As quick as stuff came available, Carl was buying it. He was making sure we had a good backstock of everything. Again, just trying to get to where we thought might be a 4-week backup. Things have obviously freed up a little bit. There are more quantities available of certain items, and things like the disinfectant wipes are still hard to find overall. But because of the fact that we're not using disinfectant wipes for everything, we're using the alcohol wipes, which really are safer for the kids as far as less chemical reaction type of stuff. There's a lot more of that available, ironically. So that's been the good, but it's still costing us a lot of money to do it. I think our intention is to try to stay in that 4 to 6 week thing, and basically, again, watching what we're seeing in the market now. We were good about not having a single source for anything. We had orders in with 3 and 4 vendors for everything we were going after. And that actually helped us keep kind of a pulse on what was happening in the marketplace. So we would get a call from a vendor like they were getting some supplies, and we knew that more than likely the second vendor was going to get some in as well. So we had multiple orders in against all these vendors, and as soon as it came available, they let us know, and we would just, either adjust our orders or take more. So I think we're in pretty good shape. Obviously, as more schools start to come back, it's going to put more pressure on this, and that's why we're kind of looking a little bit further out to make sure that we're a little bit more covered that way.
Thank you.
And then looking ahead in terms of staffing, hours worked, and things like that, I know it's all conjecture, but projecting forward, are there stress points that you all see where we may need to change or have increased staffing on some of these areas that are taking several ones for the team right now?
I would have to say, as Dr. Burrows said, we're stressed everywhere.
Okay.
Every employee is being asked to do more than they've ever been asked to do. We have had to change schedules for every single employee that we have. We have, while we may not be as taxed or weren't at least initially in food service and extended day, we offered those positions to be monitors within the schools, so that we would have those abilities to track where kids were moving for bathroom breaks and not have to have teachers lose time on learning to do that. So we have really had to rotate staff in so many different ways, and I got to be honest, I've been extremely impressed at how cooperative everybody has been to do it. We know it's not forever, but it is, a year is a long time to have to go through this stuff. And again, I think all the managers are trying to figure out ways to take the stress off as best they can, but without getting additional staff, and we obviously can't commit to long-term staff. All these adjustments that I've said that we've made are all the 1-year appointment things for as long as the COVID thing lasts. They're not, we've not taken on positions just as a long-term solution. We've taken them out only for the period in which we need them. And I think everybody's cognizant of that, so. So that's kind of my financial update. As I said, I think this is a kind of a critical thing for you guys to know as to where we're going. We are, trying to still best price everything we can, but obviously being cautious to make sure we have what we need, so.
Actually,
Michelle, I think Michelle had a question.
Oh, Michelle.
I'll let you. One question I had is in regards to the HVAC systems. We really kind of see, and from your presentation before, is we're going to try and keep as much outer air in. I would assume that that's going to also increase heating costs because we're having cold air come in.
Absolutely.
I don't want to put you on the spot on this, but is that going to be a large increase or in cost?
To be honest with you, because the town, which I've worked with Bill and George on, we continue to structure long-term deals with our gas suppliers and our electric through the rebate program. I think we're going to be okay. There's going to be some stress there. It depends on how cold the winter really is. But as I said earlier, because our airflow, air changes are as high as they are, we at least, which is different than I guess a lot of districts are facing, we at least have the option of being able to reduce down the dampers to some degree, still keep fresh air, still keep the air exchanges, maybe not be at the 12s that we're at right now, but still be well above the 4s that are the standard that required. So we're, it's interesting. We're really, we are very fortunate in our two very large buildings that those are all electronically controlled. So we're able to really cut back when we know it's going to get real cold at night, when there's nobody in the building anyways, and then have it automatically come back on at 6:30 in the morning and open up to get that fresh air back in and stuff. So we're not trying to heat the cold all night long and go through these processes. So it's, again, it's taking a lot more management, from the facilities guys' side of things. They can't sit back. They have to constantly be watching this. And all of our stuff is to the level now that they can literally do it on their phones. And from home and from different places. So, we have a lot more capabilities in these buildings than we had probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the borough will be the third one that will have that capability once it's done as well, so.
So the money, so what you're saying is the money spent previously is now paying off?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
Trying to make that
The money to be energy efficient is gonna help us with
Good connection.
And this is more of a fault for anybody, is how the midday cleaning changeover's gone in the elementary? I mean,
Actually, I think remarkably well. I think the custodians really do get it. They have, the teachers, I know it's inconvenient for them because obviously they have to get out of the classrooms to allow us to go through the process. They've been good about it, and again, they've gotten it in a very quick point. I think the day custodians have gotten this down in a cycle format that they know how quick they can get through each classroom, get the trash out of there, get the rooms disinfected, get to the next classroom, keep moving. And they're doing it in a cycle so that the teachers know that, roughly when they're going to be there so they can get out and then have, get back in to do whatever they need to do. So I think it's, knock on wood, worked very well. All of this has been an experiment in action, to be honest with you. So, we had everything that looked good on paper as we talked about it all summer long, but until you actually try it, not sure.
Just a follow-up on the LMS costs that we'll have. We did discuss this back in early September, but I just want to reiterate it for folks who are listening too. What's the, because again, we won't know what will happen, but are we on the hook for a full year of the LMS subscription, or is it a semester basis, a monthly basis, or?
It's semester-based,
Oh,
and we'll see where we are. But if we have that going forward, as far as the Department of Education, we have to provide a remote learning environment. But it is semester-based. We've had a number of students come back that started in the model, and they've come back into the hybrid. I think once some of them see, wow, there's only 10 desks in the classroom, and you really are at 6 feet plus in many cases, and all of the safety protocols that we've put into place. But then at the same time, we still have families moving in from other places that want to go fully remote. So, those numbers are fluid, and keeping up with that and watching that very carefully is also something that we have to do on a daily basis.
right.
When is that semester? Like, is it January?
January, so if you think about at the end of term 2.
And so it is,
It's like a half year.
it does meet the end of term 2? Okay.
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Just a follow-up on that. If someone starts remote and then comes back to the district, are we still on the hook for their whole tuition for this semester?
For the semester we are. So in that case, if we have someone that moves in and wants to go fully remote, they can then take that license.
Okay, all right, so that's interesting. That's a good point to
You're
make.
effectively getting the slots.
Getting a seat.
Slot, so,
Right.
okay, so that makes sense. That does make sense. And there's no other way to do it. I was just curious how it worked. And I appreciate this overview because I think the community has been interested in, what our COVID costs have looked like, and this is a good transparent statement of what we have spent so far. And I just, I think the emphasis that the computers, the laptop purchase was $800,000. There's been a lot of discussion since March, since schools were canceled, about why we hadn't, gone to a one-to-one district, and $800,000. So that's a huge spend that we haven't made in the past. And we can't go back in time and predict what would happen, but that's a large sum of money for our school budget.
Especially when you consider that our annual spend on computers is 190.
Yes.
So this would have taken us almost 4 to 4.5 years to do, and we had to do it in one shot type of scenario. So the scary part about doing it the way we're doing it is that we will have 2,600 computers that come of age almost at the same time. So we're going to have to get into some kind of a conceptual cycle, so that we don't create a real nightmare for the town down the road. So
Knowing
but
that, we
that's-
can plan for it.
Yep, we have time.
But the town will have to accept that responsibility too, as part of this program,
Right.
to stay one-to-one.
Any updates on, speaking of laptops, any new information
No, it's,
coming from our vendor?
Actually, we've just learned that it's been pushed out a little bit more in October. It was October 9th at the last meeting. Just learned in the last day that it's is it the 30th? And
which is back to close to what.
which is back to where it was
Original.
before. So if we have families that we still have the desktop computers that are ready, we have them in central office. If they need them, please contact us. They can come by between 8 and 4 to pick those up. And one of the other things that I just learned with this new date was, when you hear many districts are in the same boat that we are waiting, but then there were some districts that had Chromebooks and were able to receive them. So my question was, how is it that they're able to get the Chromebooks? And this is what I've learned. There was a large county school district that had ordered 70,000 Chromebooks that were all ready, and they had canceled the order. So Massachusetts purchased those. Now, that doesn't meet our instructional programming as far as the Chromebook with the laptops that we have. But you wonder with some that are receiving them, how did they? And that was because of this large county school district in a southern state that had done that.
And just to clarify, the October 30th date is not when we will have them to distribute. That is when we will.
The ship date.
Right.
So we had 2 to 3, we had 3 weeks to that roughly
Right.
Yes.
for,
Imaging.
yep,
Yes.
imaging, or domestic transportation.
Yeah, getting here, imaging, and then distribution.
Imaging and distribution. That's fine.
Well, thanks again for the update
So we're into quarter 1.
on everything, and just preparing us to be thoughtful as we move ahead. I think the final agenda item is the school committee appoint a delegate to the MASC convention. I don't know how we, any special way to do this? Well, so if I'm not mistaken, this is actually going to be Saturday, November 7th, I think. I did some checking on it today to try to prepare ourselves for this. So obviously, the convention that used to be held down at the Resort Center is not going to be held in person anymore. So I checked in with Deb Davis today about this, and she mentioned that this is for November 7th, which I believe is Saturday. They'll have some sessions or some things going on in the morning on that Saturday, and then at 1 o'clock is the remote MASC delegate session. So we'd be looking for someone, someone would like to represent our school committee as the voting member. As everyone jumps over the table and runs up to the front.
We have had a recent tradition of our most experienced school committee member doing that. I don't know, oh.
That is true.
Yeah.
But she retired, no.
Well, and I'll say this, I've gone to the convention every year, but I just didn't know if it was going to happen this year or not, so, if someone else would like to do it too, that's fine. I know Bevy has done it the last couple of years. It's something she enjoyed very much. And is anyone interested? Is anyone else interested for a day-long Saturday or a 1 o'clock Saturday?
I'm always interested, but I'm unavailable.
Okay.
I'm not available either.
For
that's fine.
future iterations, I'm game, but I just simply can't do it on their timeline this year.
Right. I could do the 6th, the
concur
7th
the
I can't do. We have plans on that day as well.
And I called specifically to find out, it doesn't sound like anything's happening on the 6th. It sounds like they've they've compressed it
Consolidated
down to
it
the
all
one
to the
day, is
7th.
what I thought, I heard, so. Even though our form this is the original form that comes out to the school district, so it mentions the 6th,
Right.
doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And if you didn't know, the convention, usually it's a 2 or 3 day convention, and always on that Friday, which is the last day of the normal scheduling of the convention, is this delegate session. And since they're not doing that, it's shifted to the 7th, is what I was told today.
This is all via Zoom, or is this in?
It is a
Hyannis?
virtual meeting, yes. They're actually developing the polling and the voting, and which is what they already did. The National School Committee Association had a virtual session for their national election and all that stuff that just happened. So they're going to be using a very similar model.
If you need me to do it, I would be happy to do for this year. But if you are planning to attend and you would like to do it.
I'm not 100% sure. So I looked at the date myself. I'm not 100% sure if I'm in or not. I could probably morph and move around, but if you're available and you want to do it, I think
I
that'd be
can put it
great.
on my calendar and make myself available.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you win. So,
I'll second that.
yeah, second, yeah. Do we need to vote on do we have to vote on that?
I don't think, I think we can just, by
Someone second? It was just a
consensus,
point?
agree
By
that
consensus, I would think so,
I'm
okay.
going to be on the Zoom
Could be
call.
represented.
So will Janet fill this out and send it in? Or
Yes.
do I need to sign? I guess I need to sign something on this.
She can get it all ready to sign, and
Perfect. All right, thank you, Janet.
thank you.
Thank you for your faith in me, team.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for stepping up
Thank
once
you.
again.
And I think the only thing left is other matters. Nina, anything?
I attended my first Board of Recreation meeting as our school committee representative last month, and it was very interesting, and I'm happy to be part of it. You know, our recreation board is working very hard, but right now they're a little bit, their programs are down, so they're a little short-staffed, and they are planning some Halloween events, so for our younger families, keep your eyes open on social media and our town boards, and the recreation department has some cool stuff planned coming up. Safe and socially distant. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Anything, Rob?
No, I just, again, thank you all for all the planning and in addition, all the execution, because, you know, I'm just very appreciative, and it seems to, all that planning seems to be paying off, at least right now, so thank you.
Michelle?
Yeah, I would just say, I think it's great that we had the school had the forethought to add another nurse on. I really think that is fantastic. I've had some opportunity to talk to the various nurses, including Jen Rosenberg, and you know, they've got their hands full on trying to figure out everything that's going on, and they're doing a great job. You know, they really are, and so I have to, you know, call them out and commend that and say that really is great. And I'm just going to throw in there that next week is the flu clinic, so 5 to 8 on Tuesday. I'll be there. My kids will be there, dragging them in. But yeah, so that if people are looking to try and get that, that's a great opportunity.
Brent, anything?
Thank you as ever, as we've thanked the faculty and staff and administration for all their work. Thank you to parents for rolling with it so thoroughly. Just a plug and reminding all parents who may be watching this that even though we're all adopting a suck it up and make the best of it attitude, there are supports there is support staff dedicated to help kids in the schools. Do reach out. They are good if your kid is really languishing or struggling, especially with their social and emotional well-being. That's something not to sit on. And thank you, everybody, for your work. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Dr. Brodos?
Absolutely.
Flu clinic, definitely thank you for that reminder there. We've got schools that are getting ready to start having school pictures, you know, taking place, and all of the safety precautions are in place there with the companies. They have a lot that needs to be done, so it's going to take a little bit longer. But school pictures will still take place, which I know I always, with my own
Yes,
kids, the
yes,
school
yes.
pictures are, they may not like them, but I love them. So that's really important. And two, I would just, if you get a chance, go back and look at some of the videos that teachers did for open house. High school was last week, and there are so much time went into so many of them, and they're worth going and looking at. So just, again, a shout out to the teachers.
Thank you. Dr. Mello?
I would just add, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and it was a pleasure to spend 30 minutes on the phone today with a neighboring district who is coming back from full remote, who's very interested in our plan. They're hearing from their parents and their teachers that they really like our elementary school plan, and that was nice to hear. So I just want to echo what everybody has said here in terms of Bill mentioning how stressed people are and how hard everyone is working, and just thanking people for that and remembering that self-care is important in social and emotional well-being, not just for our kids, but for our adults. That includes parents and teachers. And we'll be addressing that on our upcoming Professional Development Day and have some self-care threads in there for our teachers. So I'll probably be adding some self-care resources and SEL resources to our website too. So watch for those in the coming weeks. That's it.
Thank you. That's great. Anything else? I'm good. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for,
Richard, I'm
Okay.
sorry, I just wanted, is there a professional development day coming up in October?
November, it's on the
No, it's
presidential
November,
election
it's on the election. So we aren't having our traditional October professional development long weekend.
Correct.
Which is actually usually this weekend, right? So
Yeah,
that's not
it would have been
happening.
Friday. Thank you
Right.
for that.
So I just wanted to clarify, because I did see someone say, a comment on Facebook about not having it. I just wanted to make sure that that was out there, that it is not happening. We have school
thank
on
you.
Friday.
Yeah.
So
Every
that's
4 years on the
yeah,
election
on the
day.
election day. That makes sense.
Yes, thank you for that.
Thank you. Sorry, Richard.
it's okay. And just, Brent said it, but just another thank you to our parents and the students in the community. Our power and safety is in our collective efforts. So thank you all for bearing through and bearing down every single day and every minute. Really appreciate it. Movement to adjourn.
So moved.
Brent?
Second.
Second by Mr. Canfield. All in favor? Aye. Good night, everyone. Thank you.